17-year-old Tyler Brennan slammed his chemistry professor against the lab table. His hands clamped tightly around her throat as shocked students screamed and pulled out their phones. His voice cracked with rage. "Now you'll see who's in charge," he barked, his eyes wild and full of arrogance. The classroom was chaos, chairs scraping, books falling, frightened whispers filling the air, but the woman pinned beneath his grip was not panicking. Professor Diana Washington, a 34-year-old black woman with a sharp intellect and an unshakable spirit, fixed her eyes on his and did something that unsettled him. She smiled. It wasn't the smile of fear or surrender, but one of certainty, like someone who knew the ending of a story that hadn't yet been written. Her voice came out calm and steady despite the pressure against her windpipe. "Let me go, Tyler," she said evenly. "You've just given me everything I need." The words rattled him, but his pride wouldn't let him release her. What he didn't realize was that nearly 20 cell phones were capturing every second the violence, the cruelty, the entitled sneer on his face. Those recordings would travel across the world before the day was over. Tyler was no ordinary teenager. He was the son of Richard Brennan, a Texas oil magnate whose wealth brought influence in every corner of the state. Tyler had been raised to believe that rules didn't apply to him. Arrested at 15 for drunk driving, the police chief made it disappear. Caught assaulting another student at a party, a donation from his father smoothed it over. Teachers and principals had long since learned to look the other way. The Brennan name was a shield, and Tyler wielded it like a weapon. But Diana was unlike the people he usually tormented. She had joined Westbridge Academy only months before, already aware of its reputation as a playground for the rich. A Stanford graduate with a PhD in chemistry, she had chosen teaching not for comfort, but because she believed education could break cycles of ignorance. When she walked into her first class, students could tell she was different. She carried herself with quiet authority, the kind that came from surviving battles most of them could never imagine. From the beginning, Tyler singled her out. He mocked her heritage, whispered racial slurs under his breath, shoved her in crowded hallways, even spray-painted her car with hateful words. Every incident she reported, the administration dismissed with a nervous smile. "He's just acting out," Principal Peterson told her once. "Tyler comes from an important family. We have to be careful." Diana understood exactly what that meant. Money matters more than justice. Still, she documented everything. She kept emails, took photos, and saved messages. She had grown up in Detroit's Forster system, where she learned early to gather proof when no one wanted to listen. She had not clawed her way through poverty, racism, and endless nights of study, just to let some spoiled boy ruin her. So when Tyler attacked her in front of 30 witnesses, she didn't see her career ending. She saw the final piece of evidence sliding into place. The video spread like wildfire. Within hours, hashtags demanding justice for Diana Washington trended nationwide. Celebrities retweeted the footage, journalists dissected it, and activists pointed to it as proof of systemic protection of privilege. Yet Tyler remained defiant. That very night he posted a video of himself choking a black doll while laughing with friends. "This is how I handle teachers who don't respect me," he sneered. The comments section exploded with outrage, but Tyler felt untouchable. His father had bailed him out of worse. Richard Brennan reassured him, "As always, don't worry, son. By tomorrow this will be gone. He'll handle it." For decades, Richard had handled everything. He had poured millions into Westbridge Academy, financed local politicians, and controlled businesses across Texas. But this time, he had underestimated the woman his son had tried to silence. That evening, Diana showed the footage to her husband, James Mitchell. He studied the video silently, his jaw tightening. James was no ordinary husband. As CEO of Mitchell and Associates, one of the most powerful financial consulting firms in the country, he managed billions in assets for governments and corporations alike. His influence stretched from Wall Street to Washington. After a long pause, he looked at his wife and said, "Your student thinks he's invincible. His father thinks he owns the system. They don't know who they're dealing with." Diana had fought giants before, During her doctoral years, she worked with the Department of Justice, analyzing chemical evidence in major cases. She had exposed toxic waste cover-ups, testified against pharmaceutical fraud, and written research that rattled corporations. She understood power, but more importantly, she understood patience. Tyler's arrogance had handed her the perfect opportunity, and she intended to use it. While Tyler laughed online, she began compiling everything: months of harassment, slurs, and threats, along with the administration's cowardly excuses. James, meanwhile, turned his attention to Brennan Industries. With his network of analysts and auditors, he dug through contracts, tax filings, and environmental reports. What he found was staggering. The Brennans were sitting on a mountain of corruption, fraudulent contracts, tax evasion schemes, bribes hidden through shell companies, and environmental violations that had poisoned communities while lining Richard's pockets. The deeper James went, the worse it got. Within days, Diana and James had built an airtight case. They sent their findings to the FBI, the IRS, and the Environmental Protection Agency. The Brennans thought they had crushed a teacher. In reality, they had triggered a federal investigation that would destroy their empire. By Monday morning, the internet had become a battlefield. News outlets played the video of Tyler's assault on repeat. Editorials condemned the school, demanding accountability. At 10 a.m., federal agents stormed Brennan Industries headquarters. Employees watched in shock. Boxes of documents and servers were carried out. Richard Brennan tried to bluff, insisting it was a misunderstanding, but the charges read out to him were devastating: tax fraud, bid rigging, environmental crimes, obstruction of justice. At Westbridge Academy, Tyler was expelled on the spot. Principal Peterson, pale and sweating, called Diana into his office to apologize for not taking her concerns seriously. But it was too late. The school's reputation was in ruins, and lawsuits from parents flooded in. For the Brennans, everything unraveled at once. Banks froze their accounts, investors pulled out, contracts were cancelled. Within 48 hours, their empire collapsed. Tyler's future evaporated along with it. Universities rejected him, employers refused to consider him, and the viral video haunted him everywhere. Once the arrogant heir of a dynasty, he now found himself unemployable, shunned even by former friends. Richard Brennan was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. Tyler, stripped of privilege, ended up washing dishes in a diner where his family used to dine weekly. The Brennan name, once synonymous with power, had become a cautionary tale. For Diana, the fall of the Brennans was not just vindication, but transformation. Westbridge Academy overhauled its entire leadership. Peterson resigned, board members were replaced, and the school introduced strict anti-discrimination policies. A scholarship was created in Diana's name for low-income science students. But her journey didn't end there. 6 months later, she stood inside FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C., being handed a file by the director himself. "Dr. Washington Mitchell," he said, "your work on the Brennan case has opened investigations in 12 states. We'd like you to lead our new task force on corporate environmental crime." She accepted, James by her side, both of them aware they had become more than survivors of an attack. They were a force reshaping justice itself. When asked about the Brennans during a Time magazine interview, Diana's response was sharp and unforgettable. "The irony," she said, "is that Tyler gave me exactly what I needed. He thought he was silencing me, but he handed me the loudest microphone I've ever had." The best revenge isn't rage. It's success so undeniable your enemies can only look up from the ruins of their arrogance. And so the Brennans learned, far too late, that underestimating a black woman because of her profession or her color can be the last mistake a powerful family ever makes.